We are still here at Lower Green Swamp over in Plant City.
Yep.
A little bit more history.
So there's a small hollowed out shack somewhere here in the Green Swamp that was built by Sarah and Isham Stewart around the turn of the 20th century. They raised and sold cattle for money and originally kept their money in the bank, but then Isham became paranoid and took all of his money out of the bank. And then a couple weeks later, Sarah's son George from her first marriage came for a visit and found his mom and stepdad just bloody and beaten by an axe. He called the authorities. They came and found the empty cash box that originally had his money from the bank sitting in a pool of blood. It turns out that George, that son, his son and one of his buddies decided that they wanted that money, and they came through and took it. George's son also, after he was arrested, he broke out of jail, him and some other guy, and he came back, and I guess he had buried the money somewhere, and he came back and got that money. And eventually he turned himself in, and he wound up dying in prison like 10 years later. The shack is still there, and in 2006 they built a grave marker around where the house was located, and you can still visit that site, but be careful because it's at least a 4-hour trek into the middle of the swamp.
All right, so everybody knows about Sasquatch and Bigfoot. They're known a lot in North America, but did you know about his cousin, the skunk ape? And he has been spotted right here at Lower Green Swamp Preserve. The skunk ape has been in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama folklore since the Europeans settled and first occupied the land. Even cryptozoologists have made claims that the Seminole and Muskogee cultures included the story of a foul-smelling, physically powerful, and secretive creature called Esti Kapkaki, which translates to furry tall man or hairy giant.
Love that.
So the descriptions are very similar of everybody who has spotted him. The creature is between 5 and 7 feet tall. He's ape-like in stature. He moves upright on 2 feet, and he's covered in a mottled reddish-brown hair. And as his name explains it, he smells really bad, like really bad. So, with the descriptions of how he smelled, I'm saying, think about the worst smell you can smell, and then stick it inside of a steamy, humid Florida oven.
Oh.
And that would be your skunk ape. So one of the first newspaper reports was in 1818. The local paper in what is now known as Apalachicola, Florida, reported the monkey-like man raiding food stores and stalking fishermen on the shores. And you know the fishermen didn't like that because who's going to believe the lies of how big their fish was if they're talking about the skunk ape? By the 1940s, reports of the death-smelling hairy humanoids were becoming more common. Hunters and hikers were recounting their encounters and seeing 15-inch long bare footprints with an arch twice as large as a human print. There were reports from the Swanee River all the way to the lower Keys. So some of the encounters, most of the encounters are near the Everglades and everything, but besides the Everglades, the most stories come from Polk County.
Wow.
So one man reported that a creature jumped on the running board of his car. Stunned and terrified, the driver said that the creature eventually jumped off and ran for the woods. And then in 1975, there were 3 separate sightings. One was reported to the authorities. A man claims that the skunk ape had a hankering for corn because he was seen with an armload of ears of corn. And, sometimes you just need a sweet corn on the cob. In 2004, after a major hurricane, a woman said that the skunk ape must have been flushed out from the storm. She said, "I noticed something in the ditch and I look over and I guess it noticed me. When he saw me, he was just as surprised as I was," which is understandable. He was a typical Florida native out there checking the damage after the hurricane, being more scared by the neighbor than that the neighbor will talk to you than the storm that just went by. So, what do you think? As for me, if Florida Man and all of his stories can be true, Skunk Ape is probably true too.
Oh, yeah, sure. I love it. Okay, so this one is my favorite story. It's the Swamp Witch of the Green Swamp. She's usually heard before being seen.
Which is funny because Skunk Ape is usually smelled before it's Sorry, go ahead.
So you can hear her cackling on the breeze. Birds will suddenly take flight, and the leaves will rustle with no wind to move them. You can sometimes see her eyes glowing from the trees and brush at night. The Swamp Witch was originally named Maribel Swinton when she was born in the late 1700s. She was a midwife and knew about herbs and using them to heal people. Then one day, a little boy that was in her care died, and the townspeople got all upset about it and decided that she was a witch and went deep into the woods where her house was to get her out. Some people say that she escaped and lived the rest of her life in the swamp, but the men who hunted her down said that she had been dealt with. So, whatever that means. However, they were unable to produce any bodies or anything like that. So, they're not sure what happened to her. I like to think that she just went and lived the rest of her life in the swamp, happy and eating her herbs, keeping herself alive.
She knew she didn't kill that boy.
Right? But anyway, whatever the case may be, there are occasionally, if you look at the mud, footsteps will appear and then disappear just as quickly. There's disembodied laughter in the wind here, unexplained lights hovering over the land and water. There's all signs that something weird is going on in this place. She's also been known to change the pathways. So you'll be walking along, turn around, and not be able to go back to where you just were. And because of this, people have been known to offer gifts and leave offerings at the base of cypress trees here. One of the trees is named the Crooked Cypress. It's one of the oldest here in the park, and it's old, twisty, gnarly. Apparently it's beautiful and in the middle of the park. We have a hurt knee, so we're not going to be marching to the middle of the...
Just call me Taylor Swift.
Yep. So we're not going to be marching to find that. But apparently it's really cool, and there's a lot of people that leave their offerings there at the Crooked Cypress.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
So we recommend, taking a trek over here, even if you don't see the Skunk Ape or the Swamp Witch. It is a beautiful hike, and it brings you back to natural Florida.
It does. It's absolutely gorgeous here. Just come out and enjoy the day.